when a stranger arrived in the village of Ukuashi, claiming to hear the voice of the ancestors. Everyone bowed, except Anansi. Long ago, between the great forest and the river Nkwashi, there stood a prosperous village. Its people were known for two things: their generosity and their love of stories. Every evening, elders gathered beneath the baobab tree while children sat at their feet, listening to tales of heroes, hunters, and spirits. And among them all lived Anansi, the clever Spider-Man who believed that a good question was often worth more than a good answer. Welcome to the Afro Tales with Kemi, where African stories are told slowly, honestly, and with meaning. This channel is more than a show. It is the foundation of the Afro Tales Academy, a movement built on one belief: that African wisdom should shape how we lead, how we train, and how we govern. If you have ever felt that in your bones, you are already part of this. So sit back, open your heart, and walk with me through today's tale, told as always the African way. I am Kemi Iwalesin. Then came the drought. The rains did not arrive in the month they were expected. The river grew thin. The yams shriveled beneath the earth, and the maize bent its head as if in mourning. The people waited and waited, but the skies remained silent. As weeks passed, fear entered the village like an unwelcome guest. "Have the ancestors abandoned us?" asked the fishermen. "Who has offended the spirits?" wondered the women at the well. Even the children began to ask questions that no one could answer. One evening, a little girl called Adako tugged at her grandmother's wrapper. "Grandmother," she asked, "if the ancestors love us, why won't they send the rain?" The old woman had no answer. The very next day, a stranger appeared. He wore robes as white as moonlight and carried a staff adorned with cowries. Behind him walked two silent assistants. "I am Baba Mosi," he proclaimed. "The ancestors have heard your cries and have sent me." And just like that, hope returned to the village. Within hours, Baba Mosi astonished the villagers. He pointed to a mango tree and declared, "Beneath its roots lies Mama Ife's missing necklace." The villagers dug, and there it was. The people gasped. Only Anansi noticed Baba Mosi's assistant quietly smiling. The next day, Baba Mosi predicted that Chief Obina's goat would give birth before sunset. It did. Then he foretold the merchant's arrival from a neighboring village. Again, he was right. Soon, the village was buzzing with excitement. A true prophet, a messenger of the ancestors, a holy man. Chief Obina invited Baba Mosi to live in a special hut near the center of the village. "No man has brought us this much hope in many years," the chief declared. The villagers applauded. Anansi remained silent. Anansi had lived long enough to know that extraordinary claims deserved extraordinary questions. He often said, questions are not the enemies of truth. They are its oldest friends. He noticed that Baba Mosi's assistants spent much of their time listening. They listened at the market. They listened at the river. They listened beneath the baobab tree. And wherever there was gossip, they were never far away. One day, a widow named Mama Ada approached Baba Mosi. "Will my son ever return from the city?" she asked. Baba Mosi closed his eyes dramatically. "The ancestors say he is prospering and will return soon." The widow wept tears of joy. Anansi, however, noticed Baba Mosi's assistant exchanging glances with a traveler who had arrived from the city only the day before. Soon, nobody made a decision without Baba Mosi's approval. Should a couple marry? Ask Baba Mosi. Should a farmer plant his seeds? Ask Baba Mosi. Should the chief settle a dispute? Ask Baba Mosi. Without realizing it, the villagers had stopped trusting themselves. One evening, Anansi stood beneath the baobab tree and said, "There's nothing wrong with seeking wisdom, but beware the person who teaches you to stop thinking." The villagers shook their heads. "You are jealous," they said. Then came the announcement. "The ancestors are angry," Baba Mosi declared. "To break the curse of drought, each family must bring one valuable possession to my care." A silence fell over the village. "But only until then will the rains return," he added with a smile. Mama Ada brought the bracelet her husband had given her on their wedding day. A farmer surrendered his final bag of grain. A young bride gave away the earrings she had inherited from her mother. The pile of offerings grew larger each day. Anansi could remain silent no longer. "If the ancestors created the stars," he asked, "why do they need your jewelry?" The crowd erupted. "Enough! Stop insulting Baba Mosi. Leave if you do not believe." For the first time in many years, Anansi felt alone. Only the children still listened to him. Little Adaku asked, "How do we know he's telling the truth?" Anansi smiled. "Remember these children. Questions are not the enemies of truth. They are its oldest friends. If a person fears your questions, perhaps they fear what your questions will uncover." The children repeated the words until they could say them by heart. Soon, some villagers stopped greeting Anansi altogether. Even Chivobina warned him, "Be careful, old friend. You stand against the entire village." Anansi replied, "I would rather stand alone with the truth than in a crowd with a lie." That night, Anansi crept silently toward Baba Mosi's hut. Inside he heard laughter. "The fools believe everything," Baba Mosi said. "When the rain comes naturally, they will call it a miracle." The assistants laughed until tears filled their eyes. Anansi smiled. "Ah," he whispered, "the web is finally complete." All night he prepared. By sunrise, he carried a small basket beneath his arm. Before the entire village, Anansi bowed. "Great Baba Mosi," he said, "surely the ancestors have revealed the contents of this basket." Baba Mosi smiled confidently. "Of course." "A sacred bird? No. A rabbit? No. A snake? Again, no." For the first time since his arrival, Baba Mosi looked afraid. Slowly, Anansi removed the lid. The basket was empty. The crowd gasped. "If the ancestors reveal all things," Anansi asked softly, "why could they not reveal nothing?" At that exact moment, thunder rolled across the sky. The heavens opened. Rain fell upon the fields, the rooftops, and the faces of the villagers. As the people rejoiced, they opened Baba Mosi's storage hut and found their treasures neatly packed for departure. Baba Mosi and his assistants were sent away before sunset. Years later, travelers would ask why the people of Nkwashi asked so many questions. The elders would point to the great baobab tree and say, "Because once we almost traded our minds for miracles." And if you listened carefully on quiet evenings, you could still hear Anansi laughing among the branches. For wisdom, he will say, is not found in never following another. It is found in never leaving your mind behind. And to this day, the children of Ukuashi teach their own children the words of Anansi. Questions are not enemies of truth. They are its oldest friends. For truth may be challenged, but is never threatened by an honest question. Every story is a mirror. Where did you see yourself in this one?
When the drum speaks, Africa remembers. When stories rise, hearts awaken. Afro tales we rise, we tell.